Imagine coming home to find the doors open, the food still on the table, but no one waiting for you. Only silence, absolute. Welcome to one of history's greatest enigmas. In the heart of the New World in 1590, a settlement of 115 souls, men, women, and children, vanished, leaving behind a single cryptic word. A mystery that defies time and still torments historians, investigators, and anyone who loves stories that history has never solved. Today we will take a trip to an abandoned village among empty houses and a cold wind that whispers unanswered questions. Get ready, because what we are about to discover or not discover will make you look at the past with different eyes. The sun sets over Roanoke Island, painting the horizon red as waves lazily crash onto the shore. But there is none of the noise of children playing, nor the buzz of evening conversations, nor the crackling of fires. Only the sound of the wind, a lonely wail that insinuates itself between the wooden houses. It is 1590. 3 years earlier, 115 English colonists had been left here with a bold dream to found the first permanent English settlement in North America. They had come to build a new life, far from the turbulence of Elizabethan England. Governor John White, leading them, had returned home for supplies and promising to return as soon as possible. But the war between England and Spain, and in particular the dispatch of the Invincible Armada, had delayed his return by 3 long interminable years. Years in which everything changed, or rather, vanished. When White and his crew finally returned, they found a scene that took their breath away and chilled their blood. There was no trace of the expected prosperity nor the excitement of a welcome. In their place, a deafening silence. The village was there, its main structures intact, a sturdy palisade that should have protected them, but it was an empty shell. The doors slammed, creaking ominously as if the inhabitants had just gone out for a walk and were about to return at any moment, but they didn't. The huts, built with the toil of hopeful men and women, now showed the signs of time and abandonment: peeling walls, darkened windows that looked like empty eyes and staring into space. Farm tools lay rusty and unused, a hoe half sunken in the earth, an overturned wicker basket. The once carefully tended orchard was now a wild tangle of tall, untamed weeds, a symbol of nature taking back what has been taken from it. There were no bodies, no signs of struggle, of a sudden attack, or of a devastating disease. It was as if 115 people had simply opened a door and walked out, disappeared into thin air. John White's heart sank. Among those 115 were his daughter Eleanor Dare, his son in law Ananias Dare, and most importantly, his granddaughter Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America, a living symbol of the promise of this new world. Despair gripped his throat, but hope, however faint, pushed him to look for a clue, a trace. And the clue was there. Not on the fence, where the settlers were supposed to carve a Maltese cross in case of danger or forced relocation, but on a tree, a large oak tree not far from the settlement, clearly, visibly carved, a single word, de Croatoan. That word, an enigma for nearly 5 centuries, is the only whisper the past has left us. Was it a warning, a destination, a name, or something even more ominous? Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, inhabited by a tribe of Native Americans friendly to the English. Governor White had even made a pact with them, but why wasn't there a Maltese cross, the agreed upon danger signal? And why had no one ever seen the colonists again? White's desperate search, hampered by an impending storm and the crew's fear, was interrupted. He found no one. The ship was forced to depart, leaving John White and all humanity with a deafening emptiness, a question that has never been answered. Where did 115 colonists go? Since that day, the disappearance of the Roanoke colony has become a legend, a mystery that has spawned countless theories, each more fascinating than the last and none ever fully proven. One of the most popular theories, and perhaps the most hopeful, suggests that the colonists integrated with Native American tribes. Croatoan Island, where the word was carved, was the home of the Croatoan or Hatteras people. They were known for their peaceful relations with the English, and perhaps, in an act of pure survival, the colonists joined them. Perhaps abandoned and without supplies, they found refuge and a new home among the natives. There were later accounts of people with light eyes or light hair among local native tribes, years or decades after Roanoke's disappearance, suggesting cultural interbreeding. Captain John Smith, founder of Jamestown, heard of English settlers living with the natives, but his research turned up nothing concrete. Even today, some families in North Carolina claim direct descent from the lost colony based on unusual physical features or passed down names. But real proof, an irrefutable connection, has always been lacking. Modern archaeology has searched for traces of this encounter, finding English artifacts at native sites, but it's difficult to say whether they were trade exchanges or signs of coexistence. What if the integration hadn't been peaceful? Another darker theory posits that the settlers were attacked and massacred by hostile Native American tribes. Relations between Europeans and indigenous peoples were often tense and violent. The Roanoke colonists had their disagreements with some local tribes, such as the Secotan. Perhaps an attack, a raid, had driven the settlers to flee or had annihilated them. But if so, why were there no bodies? Why were there no signs of battle, such as damaged palisades or weapons abandoned in the chaos? The fact that the palisade was intact argues against the idea of a sudden, violent assault. And the word Croatoan carved on the tree, without the Maltese cross, suggests a more or less voluntary departure, not a desperate flight under attack. Then there is the harsh reality of colonial life in the 16th century. Death was a constant companion. Unknown diseases, famine, climatic difficulties, and lack of resources could decimate a settlement in a short time. It's possible that the colonists fell victim to a virulent disease or prolonged famine. Many died of starvation or infection. But even here, the question persists: how is it possible that 115 bodies vanished without a trace? Not even bones, makeshift burials, or personal items that are usually not taken away in such a desperate situation. A mass death should have left much clearer clues. Let us not forget the European rivals. England and Spain were at war, and their colonial interests clashed fiercely. Spain, already well established in the New World, would not have looked favorably on an English settlement so close by. Some have speculated that a Spanish expedition found and destroyed the colony pause, carrying off or killing all its members. But there are no Spanish documents confirming such an action. If they had conducted such a significant attack, it's very likely they would have boasted about it or recorded the operation. Furthermore, the absence of signs of war destruction also makes this theory less likely. And then there are the forces of nature. Roanoke Island is located in a zone prone to violent hurricanes. An exceptionally strong hurricane or series of storms might have forced the colonists to evacuate the island or scattered them out to sea. But even then, they would have left traces of their desperate escape, perhaps wrecked boats, and the word Croatoan would have seemed too calm a message for a sudden calamity. Furthermore, the idea that 115 people were wiped out without a single organic or inorganic remains ever being found seems to defy logic. There have also been more bizarre theories, born out of frustration at the lack of answers. Some have spoken of aliens, dimensional portals, or some sort of paranormal phenomenon. While fascinating to lovers of deep mystery, these theories lack any historical or scientific basis and fall more into the realm of speculation than investigation. Yet the fact that they persist demonstrates how powerful the void left by Roanoke is. Over the centuries, sporadic clues have emerged, such as the so called Dare stones, a series of engraved stones that supposedly told the story of Eleanor Dare and other survivors. However, most of these stones have been exposed as fakes, only adding another layer of confusion and misinformation to the mystery. What makes the Roanoke story so powerful is its incompleteness. It's a canvas left unfinished, a book without a final chapter. It is the story of a colonial failure, certainly, but also a symbol of the fragility of life, the brutality of the wild world, and the impotence in the face of the unknown. The fact that an entire group of people can vanish without leaving almost any trace is deeply disturbing. It reminds us how little control we have, even with all our technology and knowledge, over the great mysteries of life and history. Today, on Roanoke Island, the fort has been reconstructed, and visitors can stroll among replicas of the cabins, imagining the life that once flourished there. But the mystery remains. The wind still whispers through the reeds, and if you listen carefully, you can almost hear the name Croatoan, pronounced from the shadows of ancient trees. It's a reminder that some secrets are meant to remain secrets, defying our logic and our thirst for knowledge forever. The Roanoke colony is gone, but its enigma lives on as ever, an indelible scar on history. What's your theory about Roanoke's disappearance? Share it in the comments. And to never miss any more unsolved mysteries of history, subscribe and watch the next video.